Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Dine Around Downtown Cooking at Home Edition. If you are new to the program and have not seen any of our previous episodes, you can check them out along with some of our other upcoming food programming on our website at downtowny.com/dinearound. My name is Alyssa Varilli, and I am the Director of Programs and Community Engagement at the Downtown Alliance. We're the business improvement district for Lower Manhattan, always striving to make downtown a cleaner, safer, and more vibrant place to work, live, and visit. One of the ways we do this is by providing support to local businesses. Dine Around Downtown Cooking at Home Edition began in June of 2020 during the height of the pandemic and has been part of our continuing efforts to provide support to local restaurants and food security charities that have been impacted by COVID-19. With the return of our live events in 2022, we now present this virtual series seasonally, and today is our 23rd episode. So thank you for helping us to help our Lower Manhattan restaurant community through this popular programming. Today's episode features Michelin-starred chef and restaurateur John Fraser and beverage director Amy Racine of La Marchande at 88 Wall Street, and they have chosen World Central Kitchen as their food security charity. To learn more about this organization and how you can donate, visit wck.org. For your convenience, I have provided the link in the chat box. Just a few housekeeping items before we officially begin. We wanted to let everyone know that this demo is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be sent out tomorrow via email to everyone who signed up for this episode. During the program, if you have any questions for our guest chef or host, please submit them by using the Q&A feature. For those of you on a desktop or laptop, this is usually located at the bottom of the screen. If you are using a mobile device, such as a phone, iPad, or tablet, you can tap your screen once, and depending on the device, it will either appear at the top right corner or at the bottom of your screen. The chat box will be reserved for us to share helpful links and other detailed information with you throughout the show, like the Post Your Plate contest. If you are following along and cooking these special dishes at home, either today or even over the weekend, you can enter to win a 30-minute private virtual cooking class with tonight's guest chef by simply posting your plate on Instagram and using the hashtag #DineAroundAtHome and tagging @DowntownNYC. Check out the link in the chat box for more details, and don't forget to tag the restaurant and our host too. And now, without further ado, it is time to get cooking. Please welcome your host, James Beard Award-winning celebrity chef and New York Times best-selling author, Rocco DiSpirito.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to Dine Around Downtown at Home Edition. It's nice to see you all back here. As always, if you have questions, please ask them. We love to answer questions. We love to educate when it comes to food. Today's guest chef and guest sommelier are no exception. They are educators first and restaurateurs and chefs is somewhere in the top three. But I'm sure Chef Fraser will tell you when he comes on that as chefs, we mostly teach. We teach people what it is we'd like them to do for us and how to cook and how to make drinks and all that fun stuff. So hopefully we get to do that with you guys as well. Really excited we got one in before the holidays. This is an important time of year to remember that cooking is your best friend and probably the most generous, gracious, and loving way to tell people that you love them, you care about them, and they mean something to you. So without further ado, let's get to our guest chef and guest sommelier. They almost need no introduction. You've heard of John Fraser from his many, many restaurants in New York City, starting at Dovetail not too long ago, where he won Michelin stars year after year, to over 15 concepts that he owns and operates in the New York City area, all the way out as far east as the North Fork. He is a legend in his own time. He is someone all of us chefs admire greatly. We're all asking ourselves, how does he do it? How does he do it? Well, Chef Fraser, you're here. You can tell us how you do it and maybe go over a little bit of all the restaurants that you're currently operating, because I know it's a big group and you're a very busy chef. Are you there, John? I'm sure he's there. He'll be, if he's not going to appear this minute, he'll appear very, very shortly. La Marchande is the restaurant that he is cooking from today. It's a relatively new restaurant. in their group. It's at 88 Wall Street in the Wall Street Hotel. It's a beautiful French take on a chop house, and you know, a wonderful, wonderful way to experience steaks. Hey, chef, how are you?
Rocco, what's going on?
Going
How are
on?
you?
Nice to see you, man.
Great.
Beautiful kitchen
Sorry
back
about
there.
that. Thank you.
That's okay.
Thank you. Yeah, we're in the kitchen here at La Marchande. It is a professional kitchen, so if things get a little bit loud, feel free to yell at me and ask me to repeat.
I mean, if
problem.
there are pans flying behind you, we shouldn't be
plans.
surprised.
Yeah. If someone
remember those days, chef?
I don't remember them. I blocked them out.
You don't? Okay, good. You have no longer have a memory of those. They've been erased from your mind. I understand.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the restaurants that you're currently operating.
Sure. Yep. So we have 3 properties in New York City, one in Times Square. We have 3 different concepts. We have an all-day dining brasserie, American brasserie. We have a nightclub called Paradise Club and a lobby bar. We have Iris, which is inspired by my Greek heritage. And we have La Marchande. We're downtown now. 88 Wall Street is the name of the hotel. And Wall Street Hotel, excuse me. It's located at 88 Wall Street. La Marchande is our take on a French chop house. I worked in Paris for many years. I'm a big lover of French cuisine. But in the spirit of the Wall Street style of dining, which is very steakhouse heavy, we decided to bring those 2 things together. So the style of menu is a la carte. You'll order some main courses and some sides to kind of supplement the way you would in a chop house or a steakhouse here in downtown Manhattan. However, the sort of personality is decidedly French, which brings us to the dish that we're cooking for you today.
That's terrific. Yeah, we're super interested in it. We know you have a way with plant and plant-based foods. You're making a cauliflower tarte tatin. Tell us a little bit about the origin of the dish and why you're so interested in plant-based food.
Yep. So plant-based food is something I personally practice on my days off in the kitchen. Of course, I have a responsibility to taste everything, so I'm probably like a 99% vegetarian or plant-based. We're really passionate about cooking food that people can eat every day. And we've all had one of those big heavy meals at a steakhouse where we feel like we can't get out of bed the next morning. And that led us to maybe changing the idea of what a night out looks like. I think that in our era, when we were young cooks, Rocco, you would eat off of the sides menu. It would be a side of asparagus, and we would probably put together 3 things on a plate and call it a dish. I think the world has evolved greatly since then. We have really composed vegetable dishes with some great chefs across the world who are recognizing that there are a couple of different ways to feed people. And in many ways, we want people to feel as good as they can when they leave the restaurant. And we find that a vegetable-forward diet is one of the ways to do that. In no way are we activists who are not running around with signs. We're trying to inspire people through deliciousness.
Terrific. So for all the right reasons, it's delicious, it's good for you, it's sustainable, it's good for the planet. Sometimes it used to be good for the food costs. It's not so much good for the food costs anymore. Right. It's funny. I was just, sampling a plant-based product, and they said, it's a 50% replacement for meat. And I said, okay, how much does it cost? Well, it's a little more expensive than beef. Okay. Right. Remember the days when you could just take a carrot and make something great? Oh, wait, you did that. Didn't you do that? You did that in a few famous restaurants. Was it a carrot tornado or
carrot Wellington?
Wellington.
Carrot Wellington.
That's right. Yeah. Beautiful dish. So you want to tell us a little bit about how you're going to get into this one, the cauliflower tarte tatin, play on dessert?
So, play on dessert. When I was working in my time in Paris, we had an amazing dish. It was a shallot tarte tatin that we served with foie gras. And I always looked at that dish and I said, that shallot tarte tatin is better than that foie gras. So this inspired us to maybe go down the road of what else could be a tarte tatin. It is traditionally a pastry, a post main course dessert. And we wanted to start to play with it as a main course. And the beautiful thing about a tarte tatin is it delivers on all this stuff, right? So you have your texture, you have your fat, and it really is a blank canvas. So right now we're using cauliflower. I could see us in summertime using carrots or using a summer squash, for instance. So once we figure out how to make this show and how to put this together, it could very easily become different vegetable proteins, so to speak. The other kind of little secret is we're playing with this the flavor profile of mulligatawny. Mulligatawny is a very famous soup that uses curry, which is somewhat surprising for most people. They don't realize that the French, through the spice trade, actually they love curry. So we're kind of fusing a couple of ideas here. There's some that are on the very surface and some that are a little bit more deep. I actually have a finished dish here. Should I show it to you now?
Sounds like a delicious mashup of ideas, techniques, flavors.
Yeah. So this is the finished dish. I'm going to try and see if I can find a camera.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
It's beautiful. Yep. Wow. Okay.
And again, when you start to think about the holidays, as you were mentioning, this is something that we baked off a couple of hours ago. It's still holding up beautifully. So if you were entertaining, you could see yourself kind of firing this off and then finishing it in the oven when your guests arrive, and you can kind of top it and you look like a hero.
It's a great technical aspect of it is that it sticks around for a little while. I know when my mom made a lot of Italian dishes, they would stick around. They would hang out on the table. They would maybe spend overnight on the table and still be delicious the next day. And that's super important, especially during the holidays when people are entertaining loads of family and friends. Nice to have dishes that can be flexible.
100%. Should we start getting this prepped?
Yeah, let's start. Absolutely.
We've got some cocktails coming our way. We want to make time for everything.
For sure, yes.
I'm going to start with we use kind of smallish heads of cauliflower. We try not to use the big old Monsanto cauliflowers. And what we do is we take the center cut. So in the way that you would think about taking the center cut of beef, we're taking the center cut of the cauliflower. It's about an inch or inch and a half wide, and we save everything. So we will pickle the leaves as garnishes on crudo. We will save the tops and middles and make soup. But what we really try and do is utilize all of it. Zero waste is our goal, always. Doesn't always happen, but if anything else, if it goes to staff meal, it becomes something delicious for us.
Chef, we get a close-up of this. I think people at home are going to be blown away by this. So in a restaurant, we will take a cut like this and use that as the star of the plate and then turn all the scraps and everything else that you see on that cutting board into other dishes. And I know at home, you're probably thinking, I would never do that. But this is how you get restaurant quality results, superstar chef results like Chef Fraser.
So
I complimented him and he got quiet. You see what happened?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not used to it.
By the way, there's a lot of questions already about the pastry and the filling, and is it an upside down quiche, the same crust as quiche? We're going to get to all of those in a minute.
All good questions. So I'm just doing a simple salt and pepper here. And what I'll do is I'll try and put a sear on this, but not try and put too much heat onto the cauliflower. So it's a quick sear to add some color, get that sort of tarte tatin flavor started. And then we'll wait when it comes out of the pan to wrap it in our pastry dough. Casey, you want to come over this side? Why not?
You're probably going to see immediately that they're using extremely high heat. These are stoves with 100,000 BTU, 60,000 BTU burners. They're going to get results that are going to be very shocking and different from home. If you want to get the similar result at home, try using cast iron. Maybe heating up the pan for an extra long time before you put the fat in it.
Exactly right, Rocco. So the other thing is this is a one pan dish. So we're literally going to sear our cauliflower. We're going to let it rest right off to the side. We're going to create a sort of a butter bath and butter and honey bath that will lie in the bottom of the pan and create that really delicious caramelization. It's a super quick sear, as I mentioned. Rocco, you're absolutely right. You can put your cast iron into an oven that's all the way high heat, 500, and bring it up to the top.
You can just let it heat up for 40 minutes if you have to. As long as there's no fat in it, it'll get nice and hot. The butter and honey bath, is that something they offer as an amenity at the Wall Street Hotel?
Yeah, right. That's my skincare.
Let's put that on the list immediately. Yeah, okay.
So just like that, we're going to flip it from here. Very quick sear. Just a little bit of color and seasoning.
I think a lot of people don't realize, Chef, that cauliflower is a pretty quick cooking vegetable. Doesn't need to be cooked for hours.
Yep. And the reason for that is there's a lot of water in it. Anything that has a lot of water in it typically steams quickly.
And would you say, Chef, that this is analogous to the way you would make a classic tarte tatin? I know it's obviously a little bit different, but for those who are watching who've always wanted to make a traditional tarte tatin with apples, very similar process, no?
Exactly right. Exactly right. You get the vegetable or the fruit started with some heat, and then we add into the pastry and some of the sweet stuff and let it bake. All right, so that's it for here. Casey's our cameraman today, or camera person. Sorry, Casey. Trying not to burn her.
Casey's doing a good job. So, no shakes today. I like that.
Yeah, right.
They had
Casey,
their coffee.
Come on. All right. All right. So yeah, very simple. Really nice light sear just to get things started. And from here, I'm going to put balsamic vinegar, butter, and honey into the same pan. I will give it a quick wipe, just in case there were some bits that burned on the base.
Very nice. So you see, we're not going for, the darkest sear of all time. We're looking for light browning, light caramelization. It's probably going to go into the oven afterwards and get a little more caramelization.
That's exactly right. So we've got about, as I said, about two tablespoons of honey, teaspoons, and the same with butter, and the same with balsamic. So equal parts. We're literally just going to let this melt.
That sounds like the recipe to world peace. Balsamic, butter, and honey in equal parts. I mean, you could make anything delicious with this concoction. If you take away anything from this demo, take away the butter, honey, and balsamic formula.
Great. So I'm literally just going to let that melt, and it's going to hang out while I enrobe Mr. Cauliflower. So here I have some pastry.
So lots of questions already about the pastry. Let's get into it.
Okay, great. So you can buy this at the store. We make it here. Your choice of pastry, really. Honestly, you could make this with bread dough. It's not going to have the fat content, but it will have the same effect. So what we do is we use a little bit of flour on the board, not too much. And what we'll do is we'll roll it out to about, I don't know, a millimeter or two thick. And basically all we're going to do is we're going to create a size that will just sort of drape right over to the edge of the cauliflower. We always try and go middle out.
Remember all those pizza making classes you took on vacation? They will come in handy now. Very similar technique here.
Exactly right. And right. We start from
it's
cold
interesting
dough.
when you buy this puff pastry. I imagine, Chef, most people are just going to buy it. There are two types. One is rolled out already, and the other needs to be rolled out. So if you just take a minute to look at the boxes and make sure you buy the one that's fully rolled out, it really won't need much more labor after. If you buy the slightly thicker pastry, you'll have to spend a few minutes rolling it out. I've seen people use it without rolling it out. You don't get quite the puff, but it still works.
So here at the restaurant, we actually use croissant dough. So they puff and croissant are friends of each other. They have that lamination, and what we're really looking for is those sort of fat pockets in between those layers of dough. So we're looking for texture as well as fats. So we have our cauliflower here, lightly seared. We have our dough, which is rolled out, as I said, about 2 millimeters thick or so. We're just going to kind of stretch it over the edges. Okay, so am I doing on time here? Rocco, you got me? I'm good. I'm good. So, right around the edges, very gently.
The dough right over the top. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep, right over the top. And my cauliflower is cooled to the point that it's not going to affect the dough. We do start with cold dough. That is one of the tricks of this is, as this dough, it thaws very quickly. And once it starts getting a bit sticky, you might rip it. If you rip it, start over.
Yeah, so, if I could just take a moment to emphasize that. Cold dough, guys. Cold dough is super important.
Yeah. In case you want to get a top down on that, just so you kind of get where I am. Very good. And I'm just going to literally trim around the edge of the cauliflower. If you're a pastry chef right now, you're probably freaking out. You're saying it's not exact, it's not precise, but we're savory cooks. We're about flavor, not about precision.
That's so true. So true. I'm sure you get asked that question all the time. I know I do. What's the difference? Do you bake? Do you only cook savory foods? The savory chefs, we like to work in an imprecise world.
Right. Okay. So that's our guy there. here's the same pan that we seared in.
All right, we're going to need a nice look at that. We need a close-up of that deliciousness that's going on in the pan. So is that sort of a honey texture right now, a little thinner than honey?
Yep.
Yeah.
Slightly thinner.
Yeah. And you said it's a third butter, a third honey, a third balsamic?
That's it.
You swear in a Bible?
I do. I do. What's the Bible? Okay, so we're going into this pan. This pan is relatively cool. And everything is melted. All right, give it a little bit of space to breathe in the pan. You do not want to crowd this pan, so if you're doing more than one of them, I would recommend using 2 pans. This puff is going to start to gain some volume. In case we can see your phone. The puff is going to start to gain some volume. She's on social media right now. It's going to gain some volume, and you need to allow it some space to breathe. So this could be done on a sheet pan. This could be done in multiple pans. Again, you could do them in stages. It doesn't spend that much time in the oven. And from here, we're going to go in the oven around 400 degrees. You know, every oven is different. We want to put a little bit of heat to this because we want to create that caramelization around the base of the tarte tatin, and we want the puff to kind of furiously do its thing, aerate. So I'm going to go into the oven.
And notice how he has the sheet pan flipped upside down as a pot holder. Very, very chefy way to handle things, guys, but very effective. Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I would say, as I said, not every oven is the same, but restaurant ovens, they usually heat from the bottom up. So you want to be careful not to put this on the base of the oven if your oven heats from the bottom up.
Yes.
You want it to get convection style heat around it as opposed to just from the base. You'll end up burning it and having basically burnt cauliflower and raw dough unless you give it some space to breathe.
Really good point. In fact, we use the space in the oven as a way to alternate temperature. The bottom is always the hottest, the top is always the coolest. And so if you want a cool or lower, slower bake, you'll put it on the top shelf. Or there's usually 1 or 2 shelves, not more, in a chefy restaurant style oven.
Yeah. And you can always tell a chef where they are in their career. There's this thing called the long reach burn. If you're in a busy restaurant kitchen, you reach in really long, you burn the top of your arm. Exactly right. You burn the top of your arm on the long reach in the oven. It's a little badge of honor that we all have if you've spent some time in some
and those scars last for years, and especially come out in pictures. It's great when you get a photograph taken of your arms. You'll see them for 15 years. But it's definitely a badge of honor.
It's why Chef started doing this.
Yes, right. Exactly. Why we got so many tattoos of foie gras. Yeah. Someone, Chef Lun Su wants to know if the temperature of the butter makes a difference. You said cold.
Go.
You want to go to Amy? Let's go to Amy. Tell us about Amy.
But we're simply melting. We're not. Yeah, let's go to Amy. Yep. So Amy Racine is our beverage director. She's been working with us for a number of years. She handles both education in the restaurants on the beverage side, the bar, and the wine menus. She's also quite good at service. And she today is going to be making something I think pretty appropriate for the time. We've got some citrus in her drink, which is great for this season, as well as some coffee, which we can all use once we start drinking. So with that, I'll throw it over to Amy. Amy's downstairs at the restaurant. She'll join us upstairs towards the end here.
Terrific. Thank you, Chef. With great excitement, we go now to Amy Racine, who will be making something for the mind. Chef Fraser is making something for the belly, and Amy's working on a cocktail for the mind. I think it's a play on a martini. It's got cognac and coffee liqueur and all kinds of wonderful things. This is This is not a toy. This is a very serious cocktail, but it looks like it's pretty easy to make.
Yes, it is. It's very easy
to
Amy,
make. How are you? We can see you.
Good.
Terrific.
How are you?
What a beautiful bar.
It's a beautiful bar.
Yeah, it really is.
I don't want to brag.
You forget that when you work at a place. You forget how beautiful the environment is sometimes.
You do. This one's quite
gorgeous.
Unique,
gorgeous.
Though. Yeah. So we're going to do espresso martini.
Terrific.
Yes. So espresso martinis are all the rage right now. So this is an espresso martini version with some orange. It makes it a little bright, something a little different. And we're going to start by having a coupe ready or a martini glass ready. and we're gonna chill it.
Can I interrupt you now and talk about glassware for a second? The coupe, the Nick and Nora, the martini glass. Tell us your 30 seconds on the three types of glasses and what your favorites are.
Sure. So the coupe is a little bit wider than this. We like to use it for sparkling cocktails. It was, if you watched Great Gatsby, it's what Leonardo DiCaprio toasts with. It's great for sparkling cocktails. A lot of surface area, so the bubbles come up. You get the aromatics. A traditional martini glass like this one is great for something like a martini or a really wet martini or a cosmopolitan espresso martini, anything that kind of has an additive, if you will. And then the Nick and Nora, I like for really stiff drinks. Normally, because you're not adding in anything extra. So if you were going to do like a Negroni Up, for example, or a Manhattan, it's great because it's more, it holds a little less volume, which you don't need when it's a really stiff drink.
Yeah, so generally speaking, if you get a drink in a small glass, you know it's going to be strong. Can we establish that?
You're in for a good time. Good. Yeah.
And if you're getting your fourth one, you might want to check your pulse.
Yeah, it's happening for sure. So this one I would call a martini glass, and I've put some ice in it and some water in it, and it's just going to sit and chill while we make our cocktail. Or you can leave your glasses in the fridge, but not always an option when you're at home. So let's do it. First, we're going to use espresso liqueur. So this one that I'm using is Mr. Black, which I know we're both fans of.
Yes, for sure. What makes it so good? It's beloved by every, sommelier. By the way, you're a Court of Master Sommelier level 3. I forgot to mention that earlier. That's a really big deal, everybody. Those tests are can we do 10 seconds on the tests?
Sure.
No one believes what you're put through for those tests.
It's a lot, but I think it's necessary.
It's a lot. My therapist and I have been talking about it for a long time. You don't want to get into it now. That's fine. Yeah, okay.
That's a whole nother segment.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's with the Quarter Master Sommelier specifically, there's many certifications for sommeliers, or many different kind of companies or brands you could use. This one is geared towards service, so being great on the floor. So you have a service component where you're walking around a table and pretending to give wine service, talking them through a wine list. They're making sure you do what's appropriate in a restaurant. You do a blind tasting where you have 6 wines in front of you, 3 white, 3 red. You have approximately 25 minutes. That's the part that blows my mind.
Yeah. How do you get that right? How is that possible?
It's a lot. But it's kind of removing yourself from the wanting to guess what it is part and doing basically a mental checklist. So it's more of a disciplinary thing. It's very interesting. But when you're in it, it's a lot of information to retain. And then the theory portion. So if
harder than a New York bar exam, I've been told.
Yeah. Those guys
much more fun though. Much more fun.
Yeah.
All right, we're back to Mr. Black now.
Okay, Mr. Black. They're a roaster and a distiller, so they roast their own beans. They make their own coffee liqueur. They're Australian based. It's a bartender's favorite. But also, if you can't find it, there's other great ones out there. You can use really any coffee liqueur, but this one, it tastes like coffee. If you're making it at home along with me, taste it. If you haven't yet, it's pretty dangerous because it's 23% and you don't exactly get the boost when you're tasting it. It's really delicious. So that's first. And then next we're going to use some vanilla liqueur. I should say these first 3 I'm going to do is about 3/4 of an ounce. These are all the same portion size. And if you don't have a jigger like this, you can just use any tool you have to measure, and you're going to do 0.75 parts of these 3 and then a full part of these 2 right here, which I'll get to in a second. But vanilla liqueur, this is Madagascan vanilla liqueur. It's delicious. It's one of my favorites. Again, any vanilla liqueur will work. Or if you see something interesting like cinnamon or something out there, this is where you can have some fun and kind of play around. And then we use Cointreau. This is the orange component. This is where you're going to get those really bright citrus flavors. And then we're going to go ahead.
So between coffee, vanilla, and orange, we've got a concoction that sounds almost as delicious as Chef Fraser's butter honey vinegar solution.
Almost.
Yeah.
I can only try. But yeah, I mean, everybody loves citrus and coffee, and all of
Yes.
those things make you feel awake and bright. And
Yes.
especially during the holidays when you're running around or
Yeah.
eating a bunch of food, like this keeps you up and alive. And I also just did 1 full ounce of espresso, which not everybody has an espresso machine. If you do have like an espresso or something, that works just fine. You can also get a cold brew at your grocery store and use a cold brew here.
Yeah.
But you
What do you
definitely
think
need
about
fresh. Go
what do
ahead.
you think about espresso powder? I find that works in a pinch in, various recipes. I'm not
Sure.
sure how it would work in a cocktail though.
Yeah,
You can
espresso
actually
powder
find
should
that.
work. Yeah, that would be great. Espresso powder would work. I would kind of, tweak, maybe make 1 or 2
Yeah.
for fun and see if you like the level. But as long as you have something that has real coffee beans in it, because you need the oils to make the foam, which is one of the most attractive parts of an espresso martini. So that should be great. Yeah, that's a great idea. And then the last part, instead of using, if you go get an espresso martini anywhere, they're probably going to default to vodka. But we're using cognac.
Ooh.
And this is Remy Martin, 1738. Full ounce of that. And we like Remy because it has more of those like vanilla citrus flavors that we're already trying to bring out here. In comparison to vodka, which is neutral. So it just amplifies that. We're going to do a couple of dashes of orange bitters, just for good measure. And now we're going to add our ice. We're going to take it. If you don't have a shaker at home, you could use mason jar. You could use a deli
blender vessel.
container, blender vessel.
Blender vessel is my favorite. Just don't blend it, right? We don't want to make a frozen drink here. Or who knows? Could be pretty good frozen.
Maybe. I mean, maybe after espresso martini number 2, you want to get
exactly.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
But you're going to make sure it's nice and tight, and you want to not be gentle here. You want to really go at it, get out any holiday aggression. So you're going to shake as hard as you can.
Anything left over from Thanksgiving, this is a good time to go at it.
Let's let it out here, Rocco.
Yeah. So I think, we look at these bartenders and they're all shaking and we're wondering what's going on, but there's a very specific intent here. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, they're diluting and aerating and doing things that are basically the magical part of mixing this drink.
Yeah. You're getting the air in there. We're hitting the oils from the beans around to get it nice and frothy. I can see it already. It almost looks like a Guinness foam. If you're unsure, shake for about 15 seconds really hard, and don't shy away on the ice. Like you kind of mentioned, putting the ice in there is diluting in a good way, not in a bad way that's going to make your drink weak or anything. It helps bring out the flavors.
Yeah, it's specifically designed to dilute it a certain amount, right? It's not about making a strong drink a weak drink.
Correct. Yes, it's going to be perfectly strong enough for you. So I dumped the ice, and now my glass is cool to temperature, and I have a strainer. You can use any sort of strainer at home. I'm just going to pour it out.
That's always the fun part.
Yeah.
Watching it hit just below the rim of the glass, knowing you measured perfectly. So cool.
Yeah. And then you have that nice layer of foam over the top there. And then for garnish, you can use espresso beans or anything, but I think everybody has the recipe for just putting some orange slices in the oven for a couple of hours, and it's something nice as an alternative to kind of lay over the top. You could do cocoa powder. But yeah, these are delicious, sliced thin, put in the oven. I brushed a little Cointreau over it, or you could use anything here, but it kind of cuts the bitterness of citrus peel, something different than beans. Delicious snack.
And something you can do, while you're sleeping, basically. You can throw it in the oven overnight, not even turn on your oven. It'll probably be ready in the morning, perfectly 200.
Dehydrated. 200 low and slow.
That is a good looking drink. Are we going to taste it? Yeah.
Oh
All
yeah.
right. Cool.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it. Feel
It
bad
looks
tasting
it
alone, but
looks like the
here's to you.
perfect size. Yeah. The perfect size. Yeah. Next time we'll have to work it out
Yes.
so I have one as well. I can make it with
Yeah.
you next time. Yeah.
No, it's great. It's got deep kind of mocha flavors. It's
Mm.
not sweet. Everything here is naturally sweetened, so there's not any sort of simple syrup or anything like that added. Get the brightness of the citrus, and it also brings out the bright notes of coffee. And then a little kind of warm undertone from the cognac here, which is great for the holidays.
Yeah, it feels like cognac is a naturally suited flavor for espresso versus vodka, like you mentioned earlier. Vodka is probably just a way to get more alcohol into an espresso martini, whereas this actually makes sense in terms of flavor.
Yeah, you're building layers of flavor. And I think even if you're doing a classic espresso martini at home, it's a way to subtly alter your flavors in a positive way that people are like, what did you use? What's your recipe? The secret's cognac. Um, yeah. And you can also,
Very
all of
cool.
these things are not perishable. You can make it a gift, package them all together. So any way
And I
you want
think
to do it for
you
the
know you
holidays.
can buy brandy relatively inexpensive now. Cognac obviously is a little more expensive, but these are these are spirits that are available to us at relatively low prices. And the Remy that you mentioned is a great brand. I need you to help me settle something. It's a little controversial, so if you don't want to answer, feel free to abstain. But
Okay.
there's a long-standing battle between the front and the back, and what craft cocktail makers do and what chefs do. Which is the more complicated métier? Is it making cocktails or is it cooking in the kitchen?
John Fraser's not on, right? He can't hear this.
He's
He
waiting.
can't hear
He's
this at
listening.
all. Yeah, he's around the
No,
corner.
I just find that making cocktails today has become so incredibly complex and beautiful, and all the tools that are available to chefs are now at the bar.
Yeah, it's a collaboration. I mean, things like doing these orange peels you're using an oven and going up, and then it's pretty organic. The chef next to you is like, what are you doing? I'm doing this. Have
Yeah,
you tried doing
exactly.
that? And it's really natural. And
Distillations, yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and contrary to your
Mm-hmm.
pan throwing
Juices.
comment earlier, there's I think a good bond between the front and the back of the house these days. I mean, all the chefs want a cocktail and all
No,
the
of
bartenders want to
course,
eat, so they all
for
help each
sure.
other out.
For sure. Speaking of
Yeah.
back of the house, I think Chef Fraser is ready to show us the Cauliflower Tarte Tatin. Amy, Racine, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll see
Thank
you
you.
at the end when we're tasting it all together.
You will.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you, Amy. Chef Fraser, care to take on that question, or do you think Amy gave us all the info we needed?
Amy, I'll take an espresso martini.
It's on its way to you.
We really do. That she's not just spinning a tale. We do try and inspire one another. We use a lot of booze in our cooking. Clearly, a lot of our reductions are based on alcohol and spirit flavors. And we do try and kind of affect one another positively. And I think that these days craft cocktails are becoming an expectation. When I got into cooking craft cocktails, we're just at craft cocktail bars. Now
Exactly.
restaurants are expected to be at that level, which is pretty amazing. It kind of gives us a reason to talk.
For sure. I mean, I think it's admirable that all parts of the restaurant are now expected to perform at 10 out of 10 levels at all times.
Exactly right. Rocco, let me check this out real quick.
Yes.
Okay. I think we're in good shape here. I'm going to show you where it kind of looks like in this one, a Tiffany. You can kind of see it there. You've got some really beautiful bubbles.
Look at that.
Caramelization on the honey.
Yeah.
And you've got the croissantto kind of doing its thing there, creating some crustiness there.
From this vantage point, it looks just like an apple tarte tatin. It's got the same rosy caramelization. I can almost taste it.
So we're going to get into what we garnish it with.
Okay.
So we use some creme fraiche, but you could substitute sour cream. And one of the little tricks that we do is we hang our creme fraiche or sour cream in the fridge in a little cheesecloth. And the reason is in removing some of that water, the dairy will be less resistant to melting in the heat. So once we pop this on top of this really, hot tarte tatin, it's not going to turn into liquid right away. It's going to be a little bit resistant. So what we do here is we just got a mixing bowl here, and we've got a whisk, and I'll just kind of break it up a bit.
Another
And what
really
I'll do is
great, super chefy tip there, guys.
so I'll kind of break it up a little bit before I start putting anything with it. And this will come to temp like almost immediately. This was in the refrigerator overnight. And I'll add some salt and some curry powder, and a little bit of olive oil. Now, olive oil really is just for the look. It gives it a little sheen. And I'll just kind of whip this up. And we put this as a recipe. I don't think that we necessarily were precise with it because I think that everybody has a different kind of like love for curry or not. So we kind of left it quite general. Rocco, I remember when I first got your cookbook, the one that was sort of all of the different colors that were sort of the hues. One of them dealt with curry. It was one of my favorites. It's still your cookbook.
Oh, thank you so much.
One
thank
of my
you.
favorites to this day. Yeah. I don't
Thank
think
you
that
so
I had
much.
ever seen mustard oil in fine dining before you started using it. In fact,
Yeah.
it really was not. I mean, that was kind of a crossover that we hadn't expected. So you'll see it here. It's kind of sticky. And what we'll do is we're going to put a one-handed cannelle right on top of this very hot thing and it should kind of settle up. Okay. Second is we have a little salad, and this was picked this morning. This is celery, and we're using dill and a little bit of tarragon, celery leaf, which as I said, we picked it this morning. It's kind of hanging out in water. We throw it onto a seafold towel there, kind of drain a little bit, and then we just trash the towel and we got rid of all the water. A little bit of salt, small bit of balsamic, which we kind of referenced earlier on. So we'll bring those two flavors together. A little olive oil. And that's just gonna kind of sit nicely. Okay. So from here, we've got a reveal.
Ooh.
We're just gonna kind of turn this onto our cutting board. Yeah. Casey, you want to get close on that?
Yeah, I'd love to see it a little closer as well. The color is heavenly. Looks like a beautiful sunset.
Really great combination.
Mm.
So
Gorgeous.
you don't have to do this at home, but one of the things we do here at the restaurant is we cut out the little core, which is directly in the center. It's maybe the least most sought after piece of the cauliflower. Doesn't make it not delicious, but we want every bite to basically have the same texture. And that core cooks at the slowest pace. So you'll find it a little bit more toothsome than the rest of the cauliflower, which is basically completely soft.
Another great chefy moment. People at home who are cooking wouldn't think of that necessarily, but this is why we go to the great chefs to learn how to do these things.
I'm going to get into this plate here. And there's some really good kind of juices still hanging out in here. This is part of that balsamic butter, honey situation, which I'll just kind of drizzle on. Nothing goes to waste. And I'll take my celery salad with the herbs. Herbs of your choice. Again, with tarragon and dill today. Put it into that little cut hole there.
And Chef, I just want to point out that you mentioned that the leaves were sitting in water. And for those of you at home, you've probably noticed that when you go to restaurants, all of the herbs and what we call pluches are always vibrant and full of life. And that's because we I guess, soak them in usually in ice water for a few hours. So if you want to make your food look more like a professional chef result, try soaking all the herbs in ice water.
That's it. And when they get sort of tired as well, right? You can kind of refresh them. We love a salad spinner. If you don't have one, that's one of the kind of fun tools. Get a bunch of ice and a bunch of water, soak everything, pull it out, spin it dry. So it'll give you some extra days of life. So we've topped our tarte tatin with golden raisins and Marcona almonds.
Yum.
Again, a little bit of texture. Also, how much cauliflower does one want to eat? We try and break it up with some other vibrant flavors. Just kind of spread those around. The last piece of this is the creme fraiche. Put a little bit of a twirl right on top here.
Look at that canal, everybody. That's a beautiful canal. You know, there's a whole side of TikTok devoted to canals, chef. Now, maybe they're yours. Maybe they're yours. Who knows?
Yeah, so
that's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
you know what's great about that dish is it's a plant-based dish, but you know when you're looking at it that it's going to be filling and it's going to give you a sense of satiety. You know, normally the issue we have with plant-based foods is it feels like a side dish, but not this one. This one is absolutely an exception.
It should deliver on flavor. It should deliver on texture in the same way that any meat dish or poultry dish would.
How many of those do you think you sell a day, chef?
We're probably at around 15. It's a good number based on the number of people that we serve here. We get a lot of people just throwing it into the middle of the table. That's kind of, I think, the pro move is to make sure rather than a side dish, they just throw this into the middle. We also, we have a lot of requests. We have a lounge inside the hotel, sort of connected to the hotel lobby. It's called Lounge on Pearl. We'll oftentimes have people asking for, the La Marchande menu, and this is one of the most popular dishes over there.
Oh, terrific news. So you have the hotel, you have La Marchande, you have the Pearl Lounge, and probably some sort of rooftop bar experience.
We have a rooftop.
Amazing.
Seasonal rooftop. Yep.
It's
closed now, but it will be open during the warmer months. It's called Bar Fontaine.
Amazing. Chef, do you have a couple of minutes for some questions?
Yeah,
what do you think?
I do.
All right. So Lun Su has been paying. Lun Su is a frequent guest and been paying quite serious attention. He likens this. They liken this to an upside down quiche, sort of, but there's no custard involved, right? So I would say it's not a quiche. What's your take on that?
Yeah, and also,
Amy,
the quiche is typically a short dough, whereas this will have much more fat and much more flake.
I love a guy who can pull out short dough on no notice. So to answer the next question, not the same kind of crust as quiche. This is actually croissant dough, which is a laminated dough, as you mentioned earlier. So lots of layers, giving it a really beautiful texture and crunch. We sent the links. We sent the links to all the recipes. Making the crust from scratch, the recipe will be in the links as well, if I remember correctly. So don't worry about that. Eva Heineman, thank you so much for joining us again. If you're allergic to cauliflower, what can you use instead? Ava is wondering if broccoli would work.
100% broccoli. Again, as we head into the summer months, we may use summer squashes. Even tomato, actually. We might have to cook it at a slightly higher temperature, but tomato would be awesome as well. Yeah,
but your inspiration for this was shallots. So onions probably would make a great onion tarte tatin, right? Would be an incredible dish, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Okay, can you make this with mushrooms? Of course. What about cabbage?
Yep. Cabbage would work. Cabbage has a ton of water in it, so I make braise the cabbage down a bit. I would not necessarily throw a half head of cabbage with this. I think it might kind of disappear under the heat. So we probably want to braise it down a bit, pack it in, and then go about the same process.
I'm wondering how the Cariflex cabbage from Norwich Meadows might work. Maybe confit first, so that it loses a lot of the water and sweetens up a little bit.
Yep, I may even. I love that cabbage. If you put a little so delicious
in
between the leaves.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh, sounds so good. Apparently, it's closest to the original form of cabbage that before they hybridized it into the round shape that we know today. Gail Ruber is asking about the honey, so you might want to give them your delicious elixir recipe again.
Yeah, we the honey type.
I think it was a third honey, a third butter, a third balsamic.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and the honey, we actually have some folks that do honey for us out east in Long Island, and so we use our own honey. They're those bees are wildflower bees and lavender and rosemary bees, so you'll get a little hints of those in the raw honey. When it gets cooked, it's not quite as apparent.
And that's basically the sauce. It's also the cooking liquid. It's everything in this dish.
Yep, that's exactly right.
And then Chef Lun Su asked about the temperature of the butter. You already said that it should be cold. If it's not cold, obviously you'll be dealing with a liquid instead of a solid.
That's right.
Good Good brand of croissant dough to buy? That's kind of a great question. Maybe you know a baker that you could go to and ask for some raw croissant dough. I don't know if they'd sell it, but
yeah, I actually don't. We kind of try and do everything in house, but
yeah.
I think it's quite common now that folks are looking for croissant dough in or puff in their freezer aisle.
Yeah, I mean, puff pastry dough would work as well. Amy, is there a zero proof version of this drink?
No, sorry.
No, and there should not be.
It's called espresso.
Yes, that's right. And then Donna is asking, where can she find better glassware for home use? Great question.
Better glassware for home use.
Yeah, she was inspired by your glassware, so she wants to know where she can get better glassware. I think Amazon is a good stop. We can't hear Amy. What is she saying, Chef?
She was saying Riedel, the brand Riedel. They have a great line that deals with us normal folks, but also the commercial grade.
Yeah, they make a lot of levels of glassware now. When they first came out, they were super expensive, only for the highest end. But they do make quite a lot of levels now, and you can get those on Amazon. I think a starter set is 4 glasses for $20 to $30.
Yeah. Not quite cheap enough to break, but
no. How long do you soak the herbs in iced water?
So that's really a function of just preservation. So it's something that we wanted to do ahead of time rather than wasting your time watching me pick celery leaves. But also, again, we were trying to really create something that would be great for entertaining and could be done mostly ahead of time. You can kind of throw it together when your guests arrive.
Got it. So probably in 30 minutes minimum, an hour, and then sometimes in restaurants we have herbs in water overnight. Hopefully it doesn't freeze overnight, but sometimes we do that. And Chef mentioned earlier the salad spinner. They make a small one for herbs. That is a really neat little gadget. I love that little salad spinner. So when we get super geeky, we do that. Pamela C, who's a frequent guest, Chef, and Amy said this was a great class. Thank you. Michael Shelby says, thanks for a great presentation. Looking forward to coming in and trying the recipes.
Thank you.
And have a great holiday season. Who do you want to thank, Chef? Where should we go first? La Marchande, and then what other restaurant that you operate should we head to?
Sure. Yeah, we JF Restaurants is kind of the banner, and you can find all of our restaurants underneath that link. La Marchande, we'd love to have you. We do a great lunch, breakfast, and brunch. So we're kind of all day part. Sorry about the ticket machine. We're about to head into service, so that's the signal.
No, so generous of you to
Rocco,
let us into your kitchen now.
Would you mind? We have one activation that we've been doing since the middle of this year. It's called the Industry Table. We rolled that out for industry folks. Eating in fine dining restaurants has become very cost prohibitive. As you probably in your growth, a lot of what I learned as a cook was in other people's restaurants as a diner, not just as a cook. So we set aside one table in all of our restaurants for industry folks every day. So you go through our JF Restaurants link. We kind of ask you where you work and provide a couple of backups that you actually are part of the industry. And we provide you a meal at cost. You have to pay for booths, but it's a great way for us to connect with the restaurant community. It's a great way for us to stay involved in people's growth and education. And we really loved seeing some new faces. It's a really great activation. It's something that our team is super proud of.
I like it a lot. Do you do 10 tops?
Yeah, why not?
Just kidding. Thank you so much. What's the address of La Marchande?
88 Wall Street.
88 Wall Street.
Okay, great. Wall and Pearl.
Wall and Pearl. And it sounds like you're basically open all day.
All day long.
Terrific. Thank you both, Chef John Fraser and Amy Racine. This has been a wonderful class. Can't wait to come in and try everything. Please follow La Marchande on IG at La Marchande, and Amy Racine and Chef John Fraser. And you can follow me, of course, in Downtown Alliance, Rocco DeSpirito on Downtown Alliance on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I think we have a Post Your Plate situation coming up. Am I right about that, guys? Yeah, Post Your Plate. This is a good one, guys. Make the dishes that Chef and Amy demoed today, And you can win a chance for a personal cooking class with Chef John Fraser, which would be wonderful, as you can see. He's got all kinds of cool tricks up his sleeves and wonderful techniques, and just working with the freshest, most wonderful ingredients in all of his many endeavors in restaurants. So whip up your best version of the featured recipe, up photo to Instagram. Make sure you tag Dine Around at Home, Downtown NYC, tag me, tag Chef John Fraser, and the entry window for postings begins at the end of the Cook at Home demonstration, open till the following Monday, which would be a week from this Monday, 11:59 p.m. Very cool. Thank you all. It's been a wonderful year. I'm so glad that we were able to continue to do Dine Around Downtown at Home and in real life, in person, for those of you who've been to our events. Stay tuned. Winter episode coming in March. Have a great holiday, everyone.